space, this immeasurable expanse or realm in which all events take place. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "Your actions speak so loudly that sometimes I just can't hear what you say." Even the other day, my daughter said to me, "Mom, why are you so mad?" And I said, "What did I say to make you think I was angry?" And she said, "It's not what you said, it's how you look." I said, "Yep, you got me there." Even me, a dance artist who has spent her entire life expressing with her human body, sometimes forgets how communicative it is in everyday language and conversation. This body, the primary mode of communication at the beginning of humankind, and this body, my primary mode of communication at the beginning of my life. So today, we'll talk about our body, how it interacts with space to express, and we'll do so from a dancer's perspective. And then we'll take a moment to look at how we might be able to use those same concepts in our own life so that we might be clear in the way we communicate with other human beings. And we'll do that by, first of all, trying to understand the expressive and communicative qualities of dance as art. So let's begin today with defining art. For our purposes today, let's define art as the use of knowledge and skills to creatively express with the intention of interacting with others so that they might find or make meaning in the work. Dance, let's define as simply the rhythmic movement of the body. So dance as art then might be defined as the use of knowledge and skills of the rhythmic movement of the body, creatively expressed, so that they can interact with others, so that there might be meaning-making that occurs. This meaning-making business, this idea that people are making meaning, means that there's some sort of interaction that's taking place between the artist and the audience. And that all takes place in space. This environment, this three-dimensional environment that dancers move in, helps to create a visual and visceral context for which you, the audience, might start making meaning in the dancer's work. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of different clips. So if you watch dancers moving in the prairie grass versus in this black box theater start environment versus in a proscenium theater with projections, each one of those environments creates a different visual and visceral experience, and you begin to make meaning simply out of the environment that's been contextualized for you. That's easy. Creating space is simple. We can add some lights, throw up some backdrop, add some scenery, and that's simple. But it's how the dancer then interacts in that space to continue to perpetuate meaning, things become a little bit more difficult. In walk Rudolf Laban. Rudolf Laban was probably one of the most influential movement theorists of the 20th century. He was born in Hungary in 1879 and was really interested in creating a formalized way of studying movement, much like the formalized way we had of studying music. He was a dancer, a choreographer, an anthropologist, if you would, who studied movement in a variety of different cultures, in a variety of different environments. And he came up with a way for us to study movement in such a way that helped us to understand the effectiveness, the efficiency, and the communicative value of movement. We're going to use some of his concepts today to help us understand how dancers use those concepts to help perpetuate meaning in their work. Let's first of all begin with this idea that space hangs as an umbrella, a thematic umbrella. And underneath that umbrella are 6 different concepts. The concept of general versus personal space, level, size, direction, pathway, and focus. A dancer then chooses from those concepts to decide, well, which of those concepts should I use in order to emulate what it is I want to say. So here we go. A dancer may say, shall I move here in my personal space? What does that say? Versus, shall I move out into the general space? Moving through the environment that I've created, connecting with the other human beings that are on the stage with me. Shall I use the high space or the medium level space, or shall I go down low? Should my movement be wide, or should I narrow it up? What would it be like if the movement went forward? What does that say? How about if I retreat? Or move on the back diagonal? Or move forward on the front diagonal? What does that say to you? Should my focus be direct? Or should I flex it up a little bit? Should it be a little bit more indirect? Shall I focus on my gesturing hand, or should I focus away? Should my pathway be straight or curvy? How about zigzaggy? Pretty simple. 6 concepts, how do I use them? And then when I use them, what do they say? And are they intentional? Did they really say what I wanted them to say? Now, Rudolf Laban suggests those concepts in space are all fine and good, but it's how we interact with space that's probably most important. He calls those the shaping qualities of the human system. There's 4 of them. He suggests that how we bridge the connection between body and space happens in 4 basic ways. 1 is spoking. Spoking is a very directional and linear movement. It's one-dimensional. It comes from the central core of the body. It moves either to the near, the mid, or the far reach. It can happen in a variety of body parts. It's very direct. Arcing is the second. Arcing allows the body to connect 2 points in space with a variety of points in between. Arcing is 2-dimensional. It has 2 dimensions in space. It's still quite linear, right? But it provides greater opportunity for exploring the space. And the third is carving. Carving is the first that involves the spine, twisting and maneuvering our body, exploring the opportunities that the whole space has available. Ballet is pretty arc-like. Modern dance, jazz dance, indigenous dances are oftentimes more carve-like. And the last of his shaping qualities is shape flow. It takes the focus out of my outer space and moves my focus inward. So if we think about spoking and arcing and carving, I'm sort of manipulating space out there. But when I shape flow, my focus goes into my own internal space. It's motivated by the breath. And my body then breathes out into space. And where it goes, I'm not too terribly concerned with. I'm more concerned with the inner shaping qualities of my body. Laban suggests that when we breathe to move our body, we grow and we shrink, like the very first moments of our life. We can grow in the vertical dimension and sink in it. We can widen in our horizontal dimension, and we can narrow. And we can bulge into our sagittal dimension, or we can hollow. But as I do that, I'm motivated by my internal breath, not about my external manipulation of the space. Now, that's all fine and good. That's what dancers use. A tiny little piece of what dancers use to help communicate meaning in their work. But how do we use this information in our daily lives so that we might be more communicative in our bodies, so that what's coming out of our mouth and what our bodies are saying are synonymous, not oxymoronic? Well, let's take a look at a few of those concepts and see how they might relate to us. Let's think about this. Let's think about our postures, for instance. Neutral posture, standing here talking to somebody. And now let's take that concept of direction. What happens when I simply just take my posture and direct it forward? What happens if I direct it back? What happens if it goes back on the back diagonal? Simply by just thinking of our posture and direction, I change what you see. Let's multiply them a little bit. Let's think about direction and level. What happens if I take my posture backward and I lower the level of my center of gravity? Now, let's add focus. I shift backward, level lower, focus down. Now, let's add size along top of that. I go back, I sink down, I lower my focus, and I narrow my size. Wow, right? In the simple use of layering 4 of those 6 concepts together, we change the entire meaning of what you see. It helps you understand what I want you to hear, or it might not, depending on if you're cognizant of what's happening in your body. Now, how about these shaping qualities that Laban had talked to us about, how we bridge the connection between my body and these 6 concepts? Well, let's think about this. If I want my son to see something my way, I might create a spoke-like gesture, a very one-dimensional gesture with my finger. I might lean my posture forward, and I might direct my focus right there to what I want him to see. If, however, I want my daughters to really think about the 2 options that are on the table, I might create an arc-like gesture between the 2 options. I might even arc up my head a little bit and flex up my focus just a little bit. And then I might step away so that they can really see it. If, however, I want them to see that I'm invested in that thought as well, I might simply just move my posture forward. If I have this really cool project that I want to talk to my students at school about, I might start carving up my gestures. I might lean in towards them. I might flex my focus up and talk about all these really interesting possibilities that this new project might have, even though it's going to be a huge investment of their time. And if, however, I want you to feel my pain, I want you to empathize with my heart, I might just take a big, deep, shape, flowing breath. Narrow up my focus and cover my heart. And that just brings you right in. Simple gifts from a dancer to you. Possibilities for us to think about the clarity of the words we speak and the clarity of our bodies. We live in a world where communication is taking place through text messages and emails and chats and tweets, and that is our new reality. But it's not our only reality. We still communicate face to face with another human being every day, and we yearn We yearn for real communication. Might I suggest that if we were very clear and measured about the words that came out of our mouth and equally articulate with what our bodies were saying, we might in some small way eliminate some of the blame, some of the mistrust, and some of the misunderstanding that is riddling this world today. We have an opportunity to study the written word. We have an opportunity to study the spoken word. But where in this society do we really get to dig deep and understand the true communicative and expressive properties of this body? Our first language, the one that speaks so loud that sometimes I just can't hear what you say. Thank you.